What is a programming language?
Hello all you techies, welcome to Tech Corner. I'm Dhruti and today we are going to see something more about programming in this vlog, and that is what is a programming language. So what are we waiting for? Let's start. Okay, so before we get into what is a programming language, first of all we need to understand the need of using a language. For example, in our normal life we talk in certain languages. For example, right now I'm talking to you in English because I need a way to communicate to you my thoughts or my feelings so that you can understand what I want to communicate, right? So not only English, we have so many other languages like French, Spanish, Hindi, and so many others based on which geographical location we belong from. So in short, we use these languages to convey our thoughts to the opposite person. However, whenever you're using any language, for example, right now I'm talking in English, and if I start saying I coming, you going, what you doing, I don't understanding, blah blah blah, then you'll say, oh my god, what is this girl saying? Is she mad? Because you know English and you understand that this person is not speaking the language correctly, which means that person is not following the grammar of that language. And somebody from your friends or family or your colleagues or a teacher might correct you that, hey, this is not how you say it. You say, I am coming, you are going, right? This is how you say it in English. Likewise, when you don't understand a particular language, for example, you don't understand English, you only understand Spanish, then what to do? Because I don't speak Spanish and you don't understand English, so that's a big problem for us. However, we have a solution that we can use the help of a person or a program that can translate whatever I'm saying in English to you in Spanish, and whatever you're saying in Spanish to me in English. Means that person or the program should know both the languages, and we would call that person or program as a translator or an interpreter. Okay, so this is why we need to have language for communication, for sharing our thoughts. Is that clear to you? Right, so now we know what is the purpose of using a language, that is for communication. Similarly, when we use a machine, we need to use some mode of communication with the machine, and that mode of communication we will call as a programming language, okay, which will be used to write computer programs, which obviously the computer will understand. And these programs will be doing some sort of task, for executing some task, or for that matter controlling devices, hardware devices like printers or faxes or whatever. Okay, so you need a language or a programming language in order to communicate with your hardware device. Now, like I told you previously, that when you are using any human language, you have to follow certain rules which are known as grammar. Similarly, these programming languages also have certain rules which you need to follow whenever you're writing the code in that programming language. And those rules are known as syntax, spelled as syntax, means that you need to have the correct form of statements for the machine to understand. Now, like I told you that when you go wrong in talking a language, human language, somebody might correct you who knows that language very well. Similarly, here in programming world, we also have programs which are programmed to correct us when we go wrong in writing a code in that programming language. Okay, for example, you're writing a code in C language, and let's say you've written printf and then into bracket hello, how are you, and you forgot the semicolon in the end. Then the compiler will say, hello, you forgot the semicolon at the end, it has to be there. Of course, it will not say like this, it will say semicolon missing. Yeah, it will say very flatly, but the idea is to correct your syntax because you've gone wrong in writing the program or the code as per the rules of that language, programming language. Likewise, like I told you, that machine is something which will is a hardware, and it doesn't understand your ABC language. Okay, it needs to know everything in 0 and 1. Okay, it doesn't understand any language except 0 and 1. They are known as the binary digits or bits which it uses to understand what you're writing. So we need programs in order to convert our programming language code into a code that the machine can understand. Okay, so for that, okay, we need a program called as the interpreter. So there are some programming languages which have the compilers and interpreters built in their package with all the other features and other tools that come with that programming language, whereas in some you have to run them separately in a compiler or interpreter to generate the code that the machine can understand. In short, you need to understand for now that a programming language is used to create computer programs for executing some computer task, and you need a compiler and an interpreter combination for correcting the syntax and converting the code into something which will be understood by the machine. Is that okay? Let's go to the next point. Right, so we already saw what is a programming language and what is the need of a programming language in programming. Okay, so it's for creating programs. Now the next thing that comes to us is the compiler. I told you that the job of the compiler is to correct your programming errors. So what it does is when you submit the source code, the code that you write for any programming language is called the source code. When you submit it to the compiler, okay, it will check, parse, scan, analyze. All these terms are similar. They mean that it's going to scan through the code and find out all those little errors of syntax that you have done and pop it out to you. Hey, here, hey, there, there. Oh my god, so many errors. And it won't allow you to execute the code until you fix those errors. Okay, once you have fixed those errors, it may again scan and check that okay, the code is okay, and it may generate an intermediate code or an object code that will be understood by the processor of that machine. In short, a compiler is your, you can say, security guard. It will not allow you to go out or go in without fixing the errors. Okay? It's easy, don't worry. Okay, let's go to the next one, interpreter, right? Okay, so now we know what is a compiler. Now we go to the interpreter. The name itself tells you what it's going to do, that it's going to interpret what you're doing for the machine. Okay, but it may do it in several ways because it's an interpreter. So it may directly parse your code and execute it, which means that the code is compatible to the machine language or the machine code. And so it doesn't need to do any kind of conversion, it will directly execute it. Second, it may first parse your code, convert it into some intermediate format which is understood by the machine, and then it will execute that code. And the last one is it may pick up a pre-compiled code by, generated by a compiler previously, which is corrected and converted to an intermediate format, and then execute that pre-compiled code. Either way, the job of the interpreter is to ensure that whatever code is getting executed is going to be understood by the machine on which it is getting executed. That's simple. It's an interpreter, okay? So now we know what is a programming language, what is a compiler, and what is an interpreter. They're all friends, like we are, okay? Let's go to the next step, and that is types of programming languages. Ew, that's big. Let's do it. Okay, so we have done what is a programming language, what is a compiler, and what is an interpreter. The next thing that we need to know is the types of programming languages. Let me tell you guys, there are a lot many of them, but we'll see the most frequently used ones. So broadly classifying these programming languages are divided broadly into lower level languages and higher level languages. When I say lower level languages, these are those languages that are directly written for manipulating a computer's hardware. And the coding of those languages is pretty complicated because the coding, the strategy is not very human, understandable, readable. And the higher level languages are somewhat simpler because the coding strategies is easily understood by the human mind and can be used to create programs and softwares and apps and blah blah blah. So let's start with the lowest language, and that is the machine language. The machine language is a language or basic language of the processor understands, and it operates in the bits 0 and 1. It doesn't understand anything other than 0 and 1. Every symbol, every number, every character that you write in your computer is converted into 0 and 1 pattern for the processor to process it. And it is used to manipulate the circuits of your CPU chip in order to execute commands. right? But you need to understand that machine language is generally processor specific or processor family specific. It's difficult to use the machine language of one set of processors on another, provided you have some supporting hardware. Okay, so commonly used, you can say, machine languages are the x86-64, which are used in your Intel machines or your AMD processors. You have your IBM System 360 onwards, and you also have your ARM, which has gone from 16-bit to 64-bit. When I say 16-bit, 64-bit, you must understand that you must have seen it in your operating system, that it's a 16-bit operating system or 32-bit operating system or 64-bit operating system. It means that these are the number of bits that it can process at a time, and that analyzes the speed of your processor, how fast it can process your data, and how much amount or how much diversity of data, and how much graphics or how many characters or symbols it can support. Okay, so just to give you a small example, let's say for example I want to represent the number 12 in the machine language for a 8-bit operating system that can process only 8 bits at a time. So the way of representing 12 is 0000 1100, wherein the 11 are the activated bits for the number 12 in an 8-bit operating system. Anyway, don't get into all that because it's too much for you for a time. For now, you understand that the machine language is the lowest language and it operates on the digits 0 and 1. They are known as the bits, the binary digits, and it's difficult to write. Okay, let's go to the next one, that is the assembly language. Right, so the next lower level programming language is the assembly language. Guys, assembly language is also more or less a machine language, only that it is a more human understandable form of coding strategy, wherein it instead of using numbers that we use in the machine language, it will use abbreviations or mnemonics or short forms for representing, you can say, instructions or memory registers that is trying to access while executing a program. Further, it uses a software called the assembler. That software is what is going to convert a symbolic address that it has written in the code into the absolute physical address of the machine. Let's say, for example, if you want to add the number 42 to an accumulator, which is a low-level instruction for manipulating the hardware, what would you do in a machine language? You would probably write 052800, which could be the octal or hexadecimal representation of your instruction. But this is not human readable. We don't understand what it means every time. So the assembly language makes it a little simpler by writing add AX42, which is more understandable by us because add means you add. AX is a accumulator, name of one of the accumulators, and 42 is the number that you want to add to that accumulator. So it's how assembly language makes lower level programming a little more simpler as compared to the machine language. But either ways, both are difficult. Okay, so let's go to the next set of languages, and that is the higher level languages. Ta-da! Okay, so now we are moving to the higher level languages. The higher level languages are more simpler for the human mind to understand and to write code and create programs. So we'll start off with the more simpler higher level languages, that is our procedural languages. When I say procedural languages, okay, these languages are such that they will work on something known as procedures or functions, and they are divided into modules, which are nothing but a set of codes put together, and they're part of a library or they are part of a package, and they function together as a unit. Okay, and they contain mainly you can say small units of code which are directly accessible, and that is known as a function or a module or a procedure, or you can say method. It can be any word based on the programming language that you're using. So they are very simple languages and have limited features. They are mainly used for creating your compilers, interpreters, or even system software like operating systems. Games, basic games. They are very easy to use when it comes to manipulating the memory, but difficult to ensure that they don't use up all your memory. You have to be very careful when you use the the higher level languages. We are like procedural languages because they have features which can cause your system to crash if you don't ensure that the memory that these codes have used is not taken back once the code execution is over. In short, we have to be careful with these languages, and the most commonly used procedural languages are C and C++, several others, but these are the most popular ones. Next is the object-oriented languages. Let's move to that. Okay, the next high-level language and the most popular languages today are the object-oriented, or you can say class-based programming languages. Now, this is a type of programming language which is how do you say, more secure as compared to the procedural language, because here everything resides under a structure known as a class. We are not going to go into the depths of this because you understand it better only when you start doing hardcore programming. So now I'm just going to explain you the most basic fundamental of the object-oriented programming language is that they want everything to be enclosed in a secure space so that it cannot be directly accessed from outside, which was a problem with the procedural languages. Which is why they came up with the concept of a class or a category wherein every data member and every behavior of that data member can be enclosed into a class. So the concept of object-oriented programming language is that every real-world entity that can have a description based on its characteristics can be considered as an object. Okay, and that object will have some characteristics, it will have some behavior. For example, if you're talking about a dog. Dog is an animal, right? But it's also an object for us that has some characteristics, like it has 4 legs, 2 ears, and a mouth, and the behavior is that it barks, it runs, it jumps, and you know. So these are the things that classify that animal, which is an object, as a dog. Likewise, there are objects like trees and clothes and furniture and blah blah blah, a lot of things. So in short, you have to remember that when it comes to object-oriented programming, you're talking about any real-world entity which has some characteristics and some behavior, and that can be represented, okay, in the form of a class or a category. Okay, and there can be more than one type of objects in a particular category. Like there can be a chair, a table, a cupboard, everything as part of a furniture category. There can be dog, cat, leopard, or etc., all as a category of animals, and woman and man as a category of humans. So that's about the object-oriented programming language, the most popular languages and today, and they are mainly C#, Java, PHP, and C# is a proprietary of Microsoft Corporation. Java is now a proprietary of the Oracle Corporation, and of course PHP is open source. Open source, again, we'll see what that is. But don't worry about that. Remember that object-oriented programming are class-based, and they consider every real-world entity as an object which can be described. Okay, that's easy. Right, so these are the most, you can say, popular high-level languages, that is procedural and object-oriented languages. But there are also other set of languages which are used in coordination with these high-level languages in order to do several functionalities. For example, scripting languages. Scripting languages are mainly used for calling commands or passing commands to other programs, or they are used or embedded with web pages in order to execute client-side commands. Client-side, when I say, you are on the browser, or on the server side where your actual code is residing. For example, you have JavaScript, you have VBScript, which are used mainly with the websites in order to manipulate the data on the client side, on the server side. Then you have markup languages like HTML5, and you can say they're used to give the look and feel of your website and to also manipulate the structured look of the website. We have XML, which is the extensible markup language, which is used for representing your data in a structured format visually, as well as for storing it on your server. And then we also have the data-oriented languages like SQL and Visual FoxPro, which are used for manipulating your data in your database. It could be the relational format or otherwise, and it provides you with commands that can be used in order to access data easily, combine data easily, and then display it to the user based on his requirements. So we have all these languages that work in coordination with each other and help you to create a complete program and you can say a software. Okay, I hope you understood this. So we have this many languages that we are going to talk about today. That's about it. Okay guys, so that's about it today in Tech Corner. We've seen what is a programming language. It is a language which is used to write the computer programs. We've seen what is a compiler. It's a software which will, it's a program which will allow you to, correct these syntactical errors in your program and generate an object code. We've seen what is an interpreter. It will also help you to, analyze the code, convert into intermediate format, and execute a precompiled code as per the, situation. We have seen the different types of programming languages, mainly categorize them as higher level and lower level languages. With lower level languages, we have seen the machine language, which works in the 0 and 1 bit format, the assembly language, which uses abbreviations to represent the instructions and registers. Then we have seen some high level languages, which are the procedural language, which mainly works with functions and methods and brings a library of them, and then we use it as a bunch of code. We have seen the object-oriented languages, which treat everything as an object and a category of object. We have seen other languages like scripting languages, which are mainly used in conjunction with the high-level languages in order to execute commands on client side or server side. We have seen markup languages, which are used for designing your website or your web page and to give it a structured look and store the data in a structured format as well. And then lastly, we've seen the data-oriented languages, which are used for manipulating your data in your database, which allows you to access data easily and display it to the user. So guys, this is all from Tech Corner from me now. I hope you have understood it all. I know it's difficult for you, but slowly and gradually you will understand what I'm trying to say. And if you've still not understood, you know what to do. You have to contact me on itcom@gmail.com. And you can write your queries to it. You can also post in the comment section whatever is your query. If you have, again, as I say, any requirement for a specific tutorial, do let me know and we will create for you as soon as possible. Okay guys, so that's all from me today from Tech Corner. Take care, goodbye, and don't forget to smile because smiles are contagious. Take care, bye bye.